Hi everybody in EC 110. This is it. We're coming into wrap up. So I just thought we'd go over this final discussion because I know many of you are moving in and you have a balance of other courses to work with. So we'll pull this to a close. We've done a lot in child development this semester. We've covered a lot of topics and we've covered a lot more possibilities and questions. And I know in reading the No Wonder Learn journals that have been submitted that I find myself, and as I've done for every No Wonder Learn journal you've submitted, is added another piece of information about something that you're wondering about to continue the conversation about it. We have looked at a whole lot of ways to define the idea that child development talks us from conception right through to approximately 19 years of age when we talk about child development. And in this course, we focused on conception to puberty and the different aspects of growing. And so this gives us a bit of a cultural approach to the world. We have talked about the grand narratives and the great theorists attached to them. We've talked about genetics in the brain. We've opened the conversation and continued the conversation about nature and nurture arguments. We've also talked about perspectives of development in terms of biological, ecological, psychodynamic. We've looked at aspects of development, the domains of development, physical, social, emotional, and cognitive. We've rolled in some conversation even on the subtopic of spiritual development. We've spent a lot of time talking about the ecological structure, so that the child being at the center of what's happening in the world, and then as they move out to the next level of systems where they're more interacting with the families and the community part, more interacting with the impact from the world at large and the piece that's happening around them, and then the globe at large as well, sort of that whole piece between how what's happening in the world impacts the child at the center and how each child at the center impacts all the things on the way out, because it's a two-way street, the ecological system of development. I'm going to stop and consider a few questions. Just continue to think about them. The sociocultural context of influence for development. So what happens in terms of that cultural in context? Many of you pointed out that the theorists aren't really taking those pieces into consideration. They talk about it, but some of the grand theories don't really respond to it. How do children shape their own development? We talk about children developing, but where are they the agent in their own development? We've discussed, many of you who've done the comparison theories have talked about how relevant are the theories today and where do they still fit? Does it go smoothly? Does it happen in stages? Is it linear or circular? We've been talking about these questions in all of your assignment pieces. Did early childhood experiences have the greatest impact on development, or later experiences equally more important? Easy to say the early learning ones because we've just finished a whole course on the early learning ones. But what about what happens in that teen development part? Isn't there something more relevant there in terms of more impactful on development? How do social policies affect child development? So how are the policies that our local, our band councils, our municipal government, our provincial government, our federal government, and global policies, how are they affecting child development? We want to also take a look at, is the mind part of the body part of the mind? If they're distinct, how do they interact? Which of the two is really in charge? Is it because we're walking and crawling, we explore more things and have richer ideas and explorations? Or is it because we're thinking about and wanting to know more things that we are intrigued to start learning to crawl and do more things and get involved? Are the grand theories non-gender specific, or is there a need to hear more diverse voices in child development? And we started talking about that at the very beginning of the course and thinking about, we want to be more non-gender specific in terms of a lot of what's happening, but our research theory is still talking about boys and girls. And so how does that react? And so how is more gender theory coming out as we move forward? So lots of things to consider thinking about and lots of things to consider talking about. If all you do is come out of this course with more questions about child development, then we've done our job. The conversation this week is, I used to think, now I wonder. So please post I used to think this, but now, after some of the reading, some of the videos, some of the conversations, some of the assignments, I'm beginning to wonder what? I'm beginning to wonder about that you used to think about. Remember that No Wonder Learn journals are coming in. Your final assignment, whether it is the they said, who said, the comparison of theorists, or taking a piece of development and really diving into a small, minute piece of development and telling the story in images. Photo essays, mega difficult to do. And I see a heavy reliance on wanting to use words and tell the story with words. Very difficult to tell the story with images, and the images tell the story more so than the words tell the story. A real challenge. But I appreciate the many of you who've risen to the challenge and attempted to look at a photo essay as a different way of telling the story. I'll wrap us up next week. I won't bring us to a total close this week, but I will wrap us up in the coming week. We will have no gathering on Monday the 29th, but we will have a final gathering on, I don't know when we'll have the final gathering. We could have a final gathering on the 12th, April the 12th. I'll open the Zoom space on April the 12th, just in case anybody wants to join in. But I just can't arrange to do a final gathering on Monday the 29th. So I'll see you as the assignments roll in.